That, of course, the unwritten law and silence of any of us attempting to bring to light any music from the Eagles, the saloon soft rock band that introduced us all to Todos Santos on Baja California Sur, about 1,000 miles south of San Diego and 48 miles north of Cabo San Lucas, otherwise known as the Hotel California. I've never been there, but people say it's a lovely place. I'll have to take their word for it. The Los Angeles band, put together by longtime friend Linda Ronstadt, truly captivated a radio audience for a straight 5 years. 5 #1 singles, 6 #1 albums, 6 Grammys, 5 American Music Awards, if you really give a crap about the American Music Awards. The Eagles were one of the most successful music acts of 1970s in North America and were one of the world's best-selling bands, having sold more than 200 million records worldwide. Number one, 120 million sold in the US alone at one point. Hell, one of their greatest hits albums, nearly 38 million copies, and is the #1 selling album in the United States history. All time, edging out Thriller. Now, just as a reference here, you know how people say all you got to have is the greatest hits? Well, that lays waste to that claim, because on that greatest hits album, not all the hits are on there because they brought out the album too early. So not on there is Hotel California, New Kid in Town, Heartache Tonight, In the City, In the Long Run, and I can't tell you why. But I couldn't tell you why it sells 38 million copies, but I'm sure our panelists will be able to tell us that later today. In record sales, they're only compete with the Beatles, Elvis, Garth Brooks, with Led Zeppelin nipping at their heels, if you can believe that. They were, of course, inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 1998. They're ranked number 75 on Rolling Stone's 2004 100 Greatest Artists of All Time. Not that people are relying heavily on that magazine these days for their lists. Founding members Glenn Frey, Don Henley, Bernie Layden, and Randy Meisner. Then out goes Layden in 1975, and in comes Joe Walsh. Well, that's not too shabby, huh? And then Meisner was replaced by Timothy Schmidt in 77. Glenn Frey's son, of course, would take over his deceased father's roles in live engagements and doing a stand-up job. We saw him live. He was fantastic. Along with Vince Gill becoming an honorary Eagle, like Stevie Nicks is an honorary Heartbreaker. Don't know how that came about, and it works out pretty well, I guess, although somebody stealing Don Henley's songs doesn't sit well with me, but I think he did a good job. Today we celebrate and rank the 7 studio albums of the Eagles on tonight's catalog review show. But before we get there with the rankings and thoughts on the crew, welcome to our returning music multiverse listeners. We promise at least 11 more of these catalog review shows this year, maybe more if we can. To our newcomers, you can subscribe anytime you like, but you can never leave. All kidding aside, click the subscribe button so you can get the best of our love for music, album, and artists beyond your radio.
Oh, you're killing me.
Albums, they're number 1972
Eagles.
Eagles
On a roll.
debut. Desperado.
How many punts do you have?
On the Border, 1974. One of These Nights is 1975. Hotel California, 1976. The Long Run, 1979. And finally, The Wrong Road Out of Eden in 2007. And at the conclusion, once they've ranked, each of the panelists will then give us their final thoughts on the catalog, revealing whether they believe it's legendary, where the entire catalog is near perfection, it's reliable, inventive, sincere, and influential; iconic, where it's very memorable, very influential to the listener and industry, trend-setting, and generational; relevant, where the album has been getting much more, the albums have been getting better over time, hitting their stride and truly on their way to potential greatness; club level, well, they've had some good album songs, but not so reliable, nor are they as inventive; opening act, well, that's where it's nothing special, albums or songs, and they have some more to prove, or potentially they're comfortable with where they are; and of course, a faded memory, the band is merely a shadow of themselves, little relevance except in the past. It's a catalog to listen to less often. Let's meet the panelists. She's a witchy woman. Got no idea where that silver spoon went, though. Sue Kuligowski, and Owen's working me on the lyrics there. And we knew one of these nights he'd join us for catalog review show. Jeff Crichton. He's the new kid in town, and we try not to let him down. Everett James. And the man who's always too busy being fabulous, the Grateful Dude, Chef Jeffrey Johnson. Everybody ready?
Yep.
You're ready.
I know I'm exhausted.
Go.
So the idea here is going to be give me your 7-6-5, then your 4-3 and 2-1, right? So since this was the idea of the Grateful Dude, we'll let him start. Number 7, number 6, number 5.
Okay. Number 7 in last place, but it is what it is their first album, the Eagles. It's a good album. It's very listenable. My problem is that I think they were still trying to find themselves. It's extremely country rock, saloon rock. Their vocals had not found their balance yet. I don't think the production is particularly good. I think that since this was their first album, I don't think the record companies put a lot of money yet into them because they wanted to figure out what was going on. Okay, so let's go back to my list here. And then number 6, The Long Run. And then On the Border.
On the border, right? Okay.
Those last 2 albums, they were okay, but they didn't generate a lot of happiness with me. Of all the albums, only 1 and 2 I listened to. Well, number 2, and then we'll go back to that later, has brought. I have not listened to it very much. Now I absolutely love it, and it could. I haven't even decided whether it's going to become number 1. We're still playing with that game in my head.
Still playing with it.
But
All
that's
right,
Jeff,
like
the clock is
7, 6,
ticking.
5.
All right. Sue.
Okay, so I'm just doing 7, or I'm doing
7,
5?
6, and 5.
All right, this is my first 10. So for me, I went with The Long Road of Out of Eden. Only because first of all, I don't know a lot of the songs on it. How Long is awesome, of course. Like you were saying, Mark, I mean, if they could do an all, like the greatest hits, they have one to pick from every album they've come out with, or multiple, but I just don't know enough about it. I like the sound, but I need to sit down with it a little bit more. That's something I'm gonna do as a result of this show. That was exciting.
Yes, he's got balloons.
Balloons.
To spend a little more time going through these. My number 6 was On the Border. Still not overly familiar with it. Already Gone is one of my favorites, so it's like just a powerful song and a powerful title, 2 words.
That one
It's a
too.
statement song. So I like the sound of the album. It's just not a top 3 contender, and Best of My Love, of course. And then I went number 5. For me, was the Eagles. This one came out the year I was born. So, essentially the Eagles are kind of like, they're a soundtrack of my life kind of band, I guess. And I kind of like hearing artists unpolished and see kind of what they're about before everybody kind of puts their voice into it and tells people how to be. And of course, Take It Easy, Witchy Woman, awesome. And, I read back a little bit about who they were not going up against, but the scene back then, and there were so many incredible superstars on the scene. So the fact that they were able to put something out and it stuck and they moved on is kind of cool. So
Okay. All right. Thank you. Jeff Crichton.
Okay, here we go. Number 777. Long Road Out of Eden. I had zero interest in this record when it came out. The songs are really predictable and pretty boring. I thought it was ballsy that they thought that they could put out a double album, because there wasn't even 5 good songs on this album to make half an album. Not a good record. Number 6 is The Long Run, which I also call The Long Bore.
I will fight you. I mean,
I thought
respectable.
I knew, like, you know, when that record came out, they were burned out from touring behind Hotel California. They were fights in the band, and it was at the end of their life. They saved the best song for last on that one, Henley's The Sad Cafe. But outside of that, I thought it was a really boring record. Number 5 is One of These Nights, which I like a lot. I think it's a really good record. Title track is really good. Lion Eyes, Take It to the Limit. Also, Bernie Leadon's last song is an Eagle, I Wish You Peace, which he wrote with Patty Davis. But yeah, I like that record. The number 7 and 6 records for me, I could do without.
Got it. Everett.
All right, for my number 7, I got to go. This was the only one out of all of them. Halfway through it, I was like, "Are we done yet? I've listened to all the songs that are good on this. Are we done yet?" And that was Desperado. To me, it just kind of dragged, you know? It's like melancholy the whole time. It feels like the band just broke up with their collective girlfriend or something. And they're just kind of like, everything sucks. And it just, I mean, sure, it's fine if you have it playing in the background, but I don't think I would listen to it again.
It's good poker music.
Yeah, it's great music if you're sitting in a smoky bar and you have a full house or whatever the crap and you're betting your child on it. I don't know what you bet in poker. So far, all I've bet with my brother is goldfish, and I still always lose. The next one I had was One of These Nights, at number 6, which yeah, there's a couple of good songs on it, like Crichton said. There's Take It to the Limit, Lying Eyes, One of These Nights, but besides those 3, it didn't really do it for me. It's not bad. I wasn't bored out of my mind listening to it by any means, but just, you know, wasn't my walk in the park, or wasn't my the Take It to the Limit, or wasn't my limit. I don't know. Just wasn't my thing. Didn't connect with it like at all.
Okay.
Across the Border was my number 5, and that was the one that I gotta say where I started to like them. It's got, like Stu said, Already Gone, which so I actually went to see the Eagles in 2017, and it's been my only real concert I've ever been to that wasn't a symphony orchestra that I was forced against my will to go to. And that was the song I really liked the most at the time. Like, I played it to the point where my dad was like, "Would you turn that off?" I think he was about ready to strangle me about halfway through, but that's okay. James Dean, Good Day in Hell, Best of My Love, you know, they're all good songs. I feel like I kind of like their more rock heavy-ish songs versus their super country.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like this is kind of where they started to get into that a lot more. Like where this is the one album on the ranking, I should say, not in their release chronologically. Yeah.
Right.
Where they kind of start to get into what I like as the Eagles, which is a little bit more rock and roll country than just country.
Okay.
So that's my 7, 6, and 5.
So for me, this band, I don't know. The bottom half is rough for me. It's not that they're not good albums. It's just that there's certain things about them that don't start to finish don't add up for me. I will say that when we do these things, emotional connection is a big priority in how this listing and ranking goes. And of course, when you started to listen to the band too. Obviously, my wife and I were born in the year that the one came out. Everett, you're behind in that regard, and you'll always be. But that emotional
Hey.
connection changes, right?
I try.
I was
So-
20. I was 20.
Yeah. So you had experienced things that they were thinking about. So my number 7 is The Long Run. And the reason for that is there's no question that the band was struggling. This was supposed to be a double album, a dumb idea to begin with, for that matter, especially after you've just had Hotel California. Maybe, I don't know, it's the material or the pressures of everything. I don't know. There's just so many tracks that don't connect and run together at all. It's a shit show, basically. The last side of it for sure. You got a Beatles ripoff. I didn't remember the name of the song, but it sounds like a Beatles track. The best song on the album is Those Shoes. And for me, that sounds like Don Henley, what he's going to be doing in his solo. He even does the same thing on Disco Strangler, which is an interesting title when you hear it, or when you see it, and when you hear it, you got the feeling that sounds like Don Henley to me in a solo record. Now, remember, for me, I sang in a band. I did Don Henley's song. I kind of have an attachment to Henley. And sometimes I have to disassociate myself that while Henley and Fry are the main songwriters technically of this band, they're the golden eggs, so to speak. You have to realize that I believe the band is better when they're all doing things together and not seeming soloish. So that's my number 7. My number 6 is Eagles. That saloon soft rock start. I can just hear them playing in that bar, the one with the chicken wire and the beer bottles being smashed. And they start on Chug All Night, and they think everyone's gonna be so into it, and they're like, this is a country rock saloon. What the hell are you playing that shit for? And the crowd just starts smashing bottles, and they try Nightingale, and nope, that doesn't work. And then all of a sudden they do, Witchy Woman and Take It Easy, and then the crowd is like, all right, now they're in. So they're in the wheelhouse, and that's how that goes. They're all good songs, but I do feel at the end they have to run for their car because they drank themselves silly on root beer and they don't have enough money for the gig.
Thanks. I'm glad you included root beer for me.
Yes. Desperado is my next one. The way it begins, that was ballsy. I like Doolin Dalton, but where this one starts and where it ends is kind of an interesting quagmire. I understand it's this, thematic kind of thing, but there are songs in there. Thank God Glenn Fry comes in with that straight up rock blueser, and then Tequila Sunrise follow. And the Outlaw Man is their Neil Young Crazy Horse on there that I really like. But it's certain kind of fool here that starts reaching too far. The vocal sounds bad on that one for me. So that's my 7, 6, and 5. Back to the Grateful Dude.
4 and 3, right?
Correct.
Okay, dokie. I'm gonna get a lot of listening down where you guys are. I'm gonna get a lot of. So my 4 and 3. Let's see. My last one was On the Border, right?
Yep.
So One of These Nights is next.
Okay.
It was a good album. It was better than the other albums before it, but it was lackluster in some ways. My problem is that a lot of the albums that we're talking about today are, in my brain, mediocre. All of them. Are there some legendary ones? Maybe. Maybe iconic? Maybe. But the thing is that it's not that this catalog is out of my wheelhouse. It's in what I call my forced wheelhouse, where I was basically subjected to it, especially being my age and everything, for years and years and years on the radio. Mm-hmm. So, but all that being said, One of These Nights, and then my number 3, because I like the album, and everybody else so far doesn't, Desperado. I like Desperado. It's very ballad driven to me. Desperado's always been one of my favorite songs. So's Tequila Sunrise, and there's some other good songs. I like it, but from doing this for almost a year now, I am more ballad driven than a lot of you other people. I like ballads. I cut my teeth on ballads. So yeah, I really like that album. I'll like my next two for the
Yeah.
end. Mark?
Yeah, Sue.
So my next one is I went with the long run. I guess I'm a dark person because I liked it the long run in the City Heartache Tonight. I like it. It's a good album to me, sorry.
Okay.
And again, maybe because I always dig into the psychology of things. It's interesting to me, I guess, what people put out when they're feeling certain ways or different ways. I don't know. And then I went with Hotel California. Obviously it's iconic and you've heard it a million times and it's an awesome song. The New Kid in Town, Life in the Fast Lane. I enjoyed this album. It's one of my favorite songs. I mean, how can it not be? So nothing
Okay.
exciting to say about it other than that.
You can always come back to something if you need to.
Yeah.
Mr. Crichton.
Okay. 4 and 3 could kind of flip flop almost. But I'll go with what I wrote down. On the Border is number 4.
Okay.
I like that record from beginning to end, and I like that album, their third album. That's the album that Don Felder joined the band for that record. So he became an Eagle with that record. And it's funny because Desperado's number 3 for me. So I'll go along with Chef Jeff. Desperado was a mellow record, but it was also like a singer-songwriter record. I think like both these albums, On the Border and Desperado, kind of were in place with the whole California scene. What was going on in Southern California with singer-songwriters. When David Geffen signed the Eagles to Asylum Records when he started that label, that's what he was looking after. I mean, he signed them, he signed Jackson Browne, he signed Joni. So
was Ronstadt on that too?
Yeah, Ronstadt was on Asylum as well. So
okay, I just didn't know.
So so that whole he was picking up on that whole scene and that whole vibe. So I like both those records. And yeah, Desperado, I've got written down here, great country rock record. And then On the Border, besides all the other songs we've talked about, most of the world, and here's another, and I'll get to this too, another artist that was signed to Asylum had a song on this album that maybe most of the world were first introduced to Tom Waits when the Eagles covered Old 55.
Old 55, yeah, and they do a great version of it.
They sure do. Yeah. So that's
somewhat. Hey, it could be on our covers thing on Friday. So
there you go. There's my 4 and 3 On the Border.
Those are good. I mean, all right, Everett.
All right, I'm gonna take a page out of Jeff Crichton's book here, and I'm gonna say that my 3 and 4 are also pretty interchangeable. Okay. I put my number. I'm just gonna put them as this way because this is the way I had them written. But thinking about it more, I was like, they could go either way. So I have number 4 as Eagles. Their first album. It's very country, and I do like country. I like Toby Keith, Brad Paisley, a bunch of country, and this just kind of felt like. I don't know, but there was something that just clicked for me where I was like, this is just kind of nice. It's mellow, it's easy. I don't think it's breaking any boundaries or, knocking down walls or anything, but it's just kind of nice, easy listening music that I could turn on in the background and enjoy for an hour, which I mean, I guess was kind of the Eagles brand. So,
yes.
My third one, and this is where I think we start to diverge, is I put Long Road Out of Eden as my number 3. I had never listened to this music. How Long was really the only one that I had heard, and I liked that one. I heard it on the radio one day, and I was like, who is this? This sounds so familiar. It was the Eagles, lo and behold. I think it really, the reason it's so high up is because it is a double record, so it has twice as many chances to make good songs, I guess. Twice as many possibilities of a good song. But it also has twice as many possibilities as just having a bunch of mediocre songs. Yes. So it's got some good, fun songs. Like I like Too Busy Being Fabulous. Like that one, I kind of looked at the title and I'm like, this is gonna be like him being vain, like I'm so cool, I'm too good for you. But I was like, because I was mowing Jeff's lawn the other day and listening to it, I was like, I was just sitting on the mower riding around, just so big. Just like, I don't know. It just, I like that one and I've never heard it. And I was kind of sad that I didn't.
Okay.
And it had a good variety to me. And you might disagree, but I think it was overall a good album, if not their best. Not their best, though. Sorry. The way I
Right.
said that sounded like it was their weird. It was,
So-
it might have been their
so-
best.
So none of this has to do with a certain person being on that record.
I don't know who's on that record.
Oh,
Who's on that record?
anybody? Jimmy Buffett is on that record.
Yeah,
Really? Where? What? I did not know that.
Yeah.
Now I like it even more. Okay.
There you go.
Actually,
Now you
that's
gotta
my
figure out
number
which
one.
song.
That's my number one. Let me switch. Yeah. So that's my
neat.
number 3 and 4. Eagles and
All
Long Road
right,
Out of
so-
Eden.
So my number 4 is One of These Nights. I love that this album has a psychedelic few moments, and one is in the first strumming of the lead single, but also that proggy journey of the sorcerer. Love that. And they seem to be locked into the sound a guitar can make rather than the saloon rock they've been slinging. After the Thrill Is Gone holds a hint of that, and I understand why they use the ending song, but it's also pretty well produced for what they were doing at the time. The one thing I will say is that I finally listened to Legacy, and the remasters are better than the original. So
Yes.
I wish they would put the albums back out, and because in listening to them, like, wow, these were so poorly produced, or I don't know what they were hearing, but but then again, that's 70s. Come on. So anyway, my next one up is On the Border, and we're chest deep still in this concept of saloon rock, right? But with two of the members that have the golden egg playing their, their songs and stuff and doing that, I love that old 55. The harmonies are so good. They're solidified. It seems like they're on par with everything that they're doing. And yeah, it's funny. I didn't think I'd be ranking these albums this way when I first thought about it. But what I started to realize as of listening for albums and not singles, which is the biggest problem in the music industry right now, when a band's album is up there and it's up there because that single was great. Desperado is a ridiculous single. That album is just not pure from start to finish, right? Those are what happens to me. And you got these music critics who put albums in and they heard the single. They're, oh, it's a great album. No, that's a great single. Is there more to it than that, right? So that's
people my age. Sorry if I can put my 2 cents in. People my age don't like albums. They like songs.
Yep.
And sometimes they don't even necessarily like the artist.
Yeah,
there's a lot more loyal. Yeah, there's a lot more loyalty to a song than there was an album. Because that's like something I don't usually listen to albums. I listen to songs. So coming into the show,
I'm here to change all that.
I know, and gosh darn it, you're finally
The
doing that.
revolution.
The revolution is
will be
here.
televised.
Our album brothers rise up and defeat our. I don't know.
I am taking my stand.
Yeah.
Grateful Dude, your final number 2 and number 1.
Okay. Well, I've been flip-flopping on this for 2 weeks now. I have listened to these last 2 records a total of 15 times in the last 7 days, trying to figure out which one's really best. One is classic, one is the newcomer. So after a lot of bickering inside myself, I've made a decision. My number 2 is Hotel California.
Wow.
My
The
number
Christmas
1
album is number 1.
A Long
Wow.
Road Out of Eden, which
Oh my
I
gosh.
think is their best album by far. Plus, Mark, I have the credits, and I can't find Jimmy Buffett in this record.
Yeah, I couldn't either. What song is he on?
Find it
You
for
must-
you.
You must
No, go ahead,
satiate our
Jeff.
quest for knowledge.
Jeff,
Because
keep going.
I recognize a bunch of these people from like bluegrass bands. So So you have you Fry, Henley, Walsh, and Schmidt, and then who also you had Stuart Schmidt on keyboards and mandolin, and I know him.
No, I'm sorry. It was the long run he's on.
Oh, okay. And then you have who else?
I got the
You
wrong
have
long.
Michael Thompson on trombone, accordion. There's a whole bunch of. I know at least three-quarters of the people from listening to bluegrass, so they went back into the rig. I love this album. I listened to it when it first came out, and I thought I didn't give it enough credit. Now I've listened to it and really listened to it hard, and I think it's the true meaning of the Eagles is their last album, their 2007 album. It's fabulous. There's a lot of songs. Does it have a lot of hits? No, but do hits make records? Maybe for the record companies, but not for the individual listener.
Right.
I like this album. I like some of the songs on it are just so impressive. Busy Being Fabulous, I love, and I'm getting music again where I shouldn't have. And No More Cloudy Nights, I love. You're Not Alone, Business as Usual. There's just so many to like. And I do like that it's a double album. You know, I had fun listening to this. In fact, my last listen was an hour ago. So that's my number one. I know that's a shocker for a lot of other ones out there. And you at home, please don't send me any Rotten Tomatoes. But no, I really like the album very, very much.
They also, as we know, you said to me when you were doing this, you didn't even realize that album existed. Is that correct?
I've listened to it once, but once before 12 years ago when it came out, but I didn't give it a lot of mind because I wasn't really into the Eagles. But this project forced me to, I've listened to nothing but Eagles for the last 2.5 weeks.
Sorry about that.
Now I have to go get a drink. So
we'll get a tequila sunrise. All right.
Yeah. Exactly.
I see Jeff streaking tomorrow morning. You're gonna get a call, Mark. Okay.
All right.
Gonna be drinking.
All right. So Sue.
All right. Well, I'm gonna go back and listen to that album because Jeff talked it up so much. But so my number 2 is Desperado. I liked all the different flavors on it. I like ballads as well. Tequila Sunrise, Desperado. I mean, that song is another iconic song, and it also made it on Seinfeld. I forgot all about that, but there is an episode, and I can't remember who the boyfriend was, but every time the song came on, he had to stop and listen to it. So, and I liked Outlaw Man, and I liked A Certain Kind of Fool, Mark. So sorry, but so that is my number 2, and then number 1 is One of These Nights. The 4 main songs for me are, the commercial ones, and listening to Jeff talk about how all this was shoved down his throat. I think maybe because when I did hear a lot of these songs, it was out like in a bar or something with friends that they just felt comfortable to me. So those songs for me are like butter on that album. I enjoy it. And that's it. Yeah.
All right. Mr. Crichton.
I'm still in shock that my least favorite record was Chef Jeff's favorite.
Jeff's our shock radio DJ.
Jeff was shocked too.
Yeah, because I thought like that record, like I said, to me didn't even have 5 good songs on it. So anyway,
we'll fight you in gladiatorial combat.
Yeah, my number 2 is the debut record. Why? Because when it came out in 1972, I thought like, wow, this is interesting. You got a couple guys that were part of Linda Ronstadt's first band after she left the Stone Ponies. You got another guy, Bernie Leadon, who played with the Flying Burrito Brothers. You got Randy Meisner, who played bass in Poco, who should be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
I love Toto.
Great band, great band.
Yeah,
Yeah.
really great band. The Flying Burrito Brothers were a great band, and the Flying Burrito Brothers, when they began, when Graham Parsons and Chris Hillman formed that band after they left the Byrds. So, like, to me, that first record just melded, all those influences into one record. And the whole country rock tag, just like the media slapped that tag, just like they formed like a prog rock or punk rock or new wave. It's like, it's all rock and roll. But I thought that first record was really good. It was pleasant, and like Desperado and On the Border, it kind of spoke of it had that whole Southern California theme. It was of the time, and I think it's worn well for 52 years. It's been around almost. And my number one is, even though it's like hearing Stairway to Heaven. If you hear Hotel California on the radio one more time, you're turning it off. Excuse me.
But you don't. But you don't.
But you don't. You're right. You don't. And I think, like, from beginning to end, I think that album's perfect. And I'm a Bernie Leadon fan, so I felt like, okay, how's Joe gonna work taking Bernie's parts? But he's not. He's still Joe Walsh, the guy that led the James Gang for all those years, and he and Felder, I thought, melded really well together. The songs are, again, every song is really good, and so Hotel California leads the pack for me.
Yeah. Everett.
All right. So for my number two, and this might be controversial because it's not number one, but that's fine. I have Hotel California. I mean, it's a great album. There is nothing wrong with it. All the albums are in some way or another good, and that's what I think really is great about it. They're not all the same kind of good. There's good variety. And I mean, it has the only song on this whole record that anyone my age knows. On this whole catalog that my generation, my people my age know. That most
Life in the
people
Fast
know.
Lane.
Yes, Jeff Crichton got Hotel California. I haven't heard anybody try to, play New Kid in Town or anything like that, or for Life in the Fast Lane. It's all Hotel California. That is the Eagles, So it's, like I said, great album. I love it. It's got some bangers like Last Resort and Hotel California, which I think are very poetic because, my dad said one time, he's like, they're kind of like, Last Resort is like the sequel to Hotel California and like spiritually. And I can definitely see that. They kind of feel connected. And I mean, like, what is it here? Let me look. Life in the Fast Lane. I mean, that one's great. There's just so many good ones. But
Yeah.
my number one, and this might be the most controversial, but I will fight anybody to the death over this opinion, is The Long Run. I mean, to me, it is just banger after banger after banger. I mean, like, when I look at the Eagles songs that I listen to, like regularly, daily, all of them except Hotel California are on this album. In the
interesting.
City, Long Run. I can't tell you why. Like, I haven't Heartache Tonight. All of these songs are songs. They're the ones that I listen to. I feel like this is kind of when they really got into their bangers and really got rock and roll going in it. And I can definitely understand that they're starting to kind of like die off, but I mean, you kind of make it seem like this sad little fizzle out. To me, it was kind of more like their end of life as a band, for a while. Supernova, kind of. And I can see why it's not, but to me, it's great. Like, In the City is easily my favorite Eagles song, just bar none. Joe Walsh does a pretty good version of that too. Just Joe Walsh version.
So the Greek song.
Yeah.
That's Jimmy
I had
Buffett.
no idea. Did he write that? What did he do?
No, he's on. I think he's playing something. I can't remember what instrument he's playing on.
Okay.
They probably
I
the
didn't-
ukulele or something of that nature. I'm sure.
I didn't know that, but now it is my favorite by far. It was like this with Hotel
What is the
California.
one that sounds like the Beatles? It's killing me. I can't remember what
I
it
don't.
is.
I don't know which one you talking about.
Ugh.
Heartache
I don't
Tonight.
know it all.
No idea.
When I heard it, I'm like, wow, are they just? Ugh. Did somebody say it?
I don't know. So
Mm-mm.
that would have to be my number one. Just it hits it.
Oh,
it
Teenage
hits the
Jail.
spot.
Teenage
Oh, okay.
Jail.
That one I'm not super familiar with, but that one's probably the one that most strikes a chord with me and just kind of hits my personal taste right, right in the right spot. I can see you not liking it, but also I will fight you over to the death if you don't like it at the same time. So
Excuse me. So
But-
Jimmy Buffett was the backing vocals on the Greek "Don't Want No Tree."
yeah, I listened to
And-
that song just barely and I couldn't hear him, but just,
And they got David Sanborn doing horns on that sucker too. So, anyway, cool.
So-
I like everyone's choices. There's no one's wrong here. Alex isn't on here, so he would be wrong.
he's wrong.
Of course, he didn't think Don Henley was part of the Eagles.
Oh, poor Alex.
What?
He'll
What?
never live that down. I promise.
That's more denouncing than the Long Road Out of Eden being number one. Okay, so if you've been
Alex and
playing
Jeff are the
along-
heretics.
if you've been playing along, I haven't mentioned Long Road Out of Eden either yet, but I'm going to tell you why I'm making it my number two. This is the eventuality of maturity for me. First of all, it's shameful that the best produced album is actually the last one, but here it is, 2007, right? Or I think so. Obviously, technology is a little better. The harmonies, while they might have been somewhat probably overproduced, maybe I found them more engaging to me for some reason. It's songwriting gold for what they're producing for me. I'm aware of the strengths of each of the members rather than being soloists. What is it, because it's a double album? Maybe. And when a double album comes along, I don't expect them all to be tremendous songs. But again, this one had everything. It had me at every song. There was little twists and turns. Just and on the deluxe, there's something about the world ending. Crap, can't think of the name of the song. Oh, it's terrible. There's an extra track on the deluxe, and it's fantastically done. They actually show you how they did it and how they're all standing around a microphone singing instead of everyone in separate booths, right? And that kind of thing. So the harmonies, that's kind of raw, but they were so elegantly done. My number one is Hotel California. There wasn't a question from day one. That album is nearly flawless. It may be even flawless. The only thing is the year of it, maybe. Joe Walsh's entry to the band was astounding to me. Melded well, like Jeff Crichton said. I think the first time you hear him, he's not even playing guitar, he's playing organ. So it's interesting to me how he just jumps in there. I don't think any band can boast the things that they do anyway from start to finish in this catalog. The album's country and rock blend here is unmatched in the successes of any band that's trying to do the same thing, whether it's Uncle Tupelo or Wilco or any of that nature. They are the masters of it, and they're probably not duplicatable. Now I'm going to go back around to the panelists really quick. So when it comes down to it, legendary, iconic, relevant, club level, opening act, faded memory. So Grateful Dude, what say you?
I have no freaking idea. No, how do you rate a band that has so many songs that span over 3 or 4 generations? Most people know them. It's weird that I've been in many, many country bars in my life, and on their jukebox, the only rock was quote unquote the Eagles. So they span. So I don't know if they're legendary in my book because there's other bands I put up there, but I'm gonna say iconic and a pretty strong iconic. You know, will they be around, be still listened to in 50 years? Possibly. But it's like saying, will Led Zeppelin still be around in 50 years? You don't know.
Yes.
You really don't know. But, you know, I would like to think both of them will be still listened to in 50 years.
Yeah. Sue.
Well, when they come out with like the next kind of Stranger Things series, then they can bring these bands back to life. But
Stranger
I
Things, Texas version,
maybe
Southern
Maybe.
California.
Southern California, maybe, right? Yeah.
I think Texas is
Um,
country.
I kind of am piggybacking off of Jeff a little bit. I went with iconic because I guess I don't know enough about them overall to go with legendary. And every time, you know, because I was kind of choosing albums a little bit based on songs, sorry.
Okay.
Every time I was choosing one, I'm like, oh, that was an iconic song. And so it kind of added up. And then I thought, well, I guess if a band has so many iconic songs, are they just legendary by default? I don't know. But that was kind of my feeling on it. Maybe after I listen to Long Road Out of Eden again, I'll like up it to legendary, but they're iconic for me.
Mr. Crichton.
I think the first 6 albums are iconic. Maybe the long run less so. And for me, Long Road Out of Eden is a faded memory.
I still love you, Jeff.
Thank you.
All right. Everett.
This one's kind of tricky. I'm not gonna lie, because on one hand, I'm gonna go with everybody else. They're iconic. They have some great songs. They have none of their albums had any songs that I wouldn't listen to again. Like Desperado, which I put at the bottom. There are still songs on Desperado I would listen to, just not the whole album. So for that, I have to give them an iconic. But at the same time, the only real modern day legacy of the entire band for more modern, you know, like your average person, like closer to my age, is just Hotel California. You know, like 9 out of 10 people, that's the only song they know. And they probably don't even know it's by a band called the Eagles.
Right.
They just, for all they know, it was a one-hit wonder, you know?
Yeah.
So for that, I'm gonna have to give them halfway between like irrelevant and an iconic. I think they're really good, but something about them just isn't clicking, you know? Like kids these days, like people like my friends and whatnot, they all know like the Beatles, AC/DC, Zeppelin, Queen. These are all bands that they all know. You know, they know a song or two by them. They're not like big fans, but they know of them. The Eagles, not so much. The Eagles just haven't had that happen to them. I don't know. Maybe we just need a movie that comes out in the next 5 years that has an Eagles song that does great. Like I say, I didn't hear Led Zeppelin at all before Thor 3 came out.
No one's gonna make that movie because they're not gonna pay the royalty on the song.
Well, hey.
The royalty will kill you.
Yeah, royalty will be half the budget. The other half will be.
Well, the first movie ticket, that's $120.
Yeah, I'm kidding.
For me, that's it. So for me, the catalog review reminded me how iconic they are together. The importance of fusion of country and rock, or as I like to call them, the best damn saloon rockers ever, with 2 excellent songwriters and the centerpieces of historic moments for sure for a lot of people in different eras, which is impressive too. I mean, Hotel California and other songs get played in other areas such as TV, movies, etc. So, what was your ranking of the Eagles? Send us your comments. If you like what we're doing here, you know what the like button is. You can hit it. Don't hit it again because then it turns it off. We will be back next month with In Excess, which was postponed from last year. We are on the web at beyondyourradio.com, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, of course. Check out Album for Today, which you do each and every day. Coming up this Friday, Panelists' favorite show, covers that are better than the original. Happy listening, everyone.